Hi, I'm Todd Jaderborg with Odins Wolf Survival, and we're here at my pottery kiln. We've got it filled back up with wood. It's where I want it. We've got the fire laid and ready to set, and we'll be setting it today with Exotax Titan Lighter. And after it gets burning, we've got some food to grill for the two of us and the supervisor over here. So let's make it burn. This Titan lighter uses Zippo fuel and flints and a wick. It's all machined aluminum, O-ring sealed. This has been sitting since this spring in my oh shit bag basically. I pulled it out, it lit right up. It holds fuel quite well. And it looks like the fire's taken off quite nicely.
I'm David Fortier. I'm the editor of Be Ready magazine, one of the titles that Todd writes for, and I decided to come over for this initial burn. Todd's been working on this for quite a while, as a lot of you guys know. Turned out really well, pretty darn impressive. No power tools, and I'm pretty excited just to see how the initial burn goes.
Get it back. This opening goes back and it kind of dips a little bit, so it'll take a little bit to get it in there. We got smoke going.
We got smoke going.
Once it starts going, it'll burn pretty wicked.
Yeah, you got quite a bit of wood in there, so.
Yep, it'll take.
Oh, there we go. Keep going.
I can see some fire back in there now. That's what I was looking for.
Shazam.
Once that punches out, it ought to be an impressive flame. These things back in the day would have smoked out quite a large area.
And what do you plan on making with it? What's your idea for what you want to?
First off, my initial thought is to make a cup and a bowl and maybe a small plate. See how things go. And then I want to make some bigger, like water containers, things along that line that hold a little more volume. I'm more trying to learn the process than anything. So I'm probably going to make a whole bunch of junk right out of the gate that'll probably break, but we'll see.
Now this is your second kiln that you've built. Your first one was dramatically smaller, and that was more of a learning experience.
Yes, and I had a floor plate in it, and I had too small of a firebox underneath it. This is an open. I don't have a raised area for to sit the pottery on, so I'll end up making a brick to set in the center of it to set it on. Once I get the wood all stacked around it and on top of it and everything, and let it burn. It'll have to hit, I think, what they'd say, you want to bring it up to 1500 degrees or so. This design is essentially a giant rocket stove, more or less. The only thing is with a rocket stove, you feed the fuel in here and the heat just rises up. With a pottery kiln, you fill the whole thing with fuel. And then ignite it from here, so you'll have a lot of smoke in this sort of setup. we're getting the fire back into it now.
Yep, you can hear it.
So it'll smoke at the bottom. Once it catches the bottom, the fire will climb up through there, and it'll really start. It should get a roar, and I think the old tales of the dragons came from the bigger smelters.
Yep.
Smelters would be 10 or 12, 15 feet tall, and I made a charcoal kiln at one time, and it roared loud enough you could hear it clear as the neighbors. It sounded like a jet.
I've seen some big smelters in Europe from the 19th century. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah, you can imagine what they sound like once they got to sucking that air through there. I mean, it just roars.
Yep.
Well, you get a primitive people that didn't know what that would be.
Sure.
Then because you'd be able to hear it for miles in a pre-industrial. And what would be the thing to explain it?
Now, one of the neat things about this is this was made from clay that was entirely mined by hand and carried by hand over here. The grass was all cut from here. This is something that was all done by hand on Todd's property. It's just one of many different projects that he always has. He's always got different projects that are going on.
Now we're getting the fire into the main body. Once this hardens up, it's got through the building process, the lip dropped down a little bit, so it left a ledge inside. I'm going to go in with a farrier's rasp once it hardens up and cut that away, because I was kind of afraid to do it while it was still a little green. I want it dry so the whole thing don't dump.
So what do you think was the most difficult part of the entire process of doing this?
Well, the actual decision to turn this into a pottery kiln, because it started out as my fire pit.
Yeah.
And I kept building the fire pit up, and I finally looked at it and was like, I just might as well go ahead and... Once I got that going, spanning the gap, because it had a big open gap in here. Spanning the gap initially was the biggest part of it. Once I got that spanned and it started hiding, because that's what it drooped a little.
Yeah.
But I built that up, and once it started building up, it stayed there. But you can, you won't be able to see it now. But there's a ledge drop down, and that's what kind of inhibited this fire. And I knew it was going to. So otherwise, I'm gonna smooth that up and round it so the fire wants to roll back, which will help pick it up later, and it'd be easier to feed it in this end if I need to add more fuel. But we got it burning in there now. Now it just has to climb up to where it gets arrested.
And what are some of your other projects that you're working on right now for everyone at home? Because Todd's always working on a lot of different projects all at once.
I'm building a bison hide pack for me out of scrap bison. It's patchwork. They've seen pictures on. It kind of got short-stopped for the moment. That'll probably go back into being in production in the winter. I've got to clay the whole walls on this, and a friend of mine that makes blades, Dwarf Mountain Knives, John Thompson, he's got some iron ore and he's getting some more. So a little further out in the field, closer to some electricity, we're going to, and a hose, we're going to set up a smelter to smelt the iron ore into iron, and that'll all be on video. We're going to do that, and then we're going to take it and put it in a 10th century smelter kiln and turn it into a steel that they had in the day, because I've got the formula for it. And we're going to use the original style smelter, although I'm not using the two bellows because that'll run 6 hours to do this. I've got a hair dryer. I'm going to cheat. I'm not even going to lie. But that'll be on video. But it's going to be actually using charcoal that we made. So, and it'll be another clay kiln like this, clay and brick. I'm gonna make brick out of the clay. It'll be set up like that, and then John wants to take it'll be a cast ingot more or less, and work it into a wrought and turn it into a Viking blade.
Nice.
As per original.
You're always doing such neat things. That's one thing about Todd, is he's always up to something.
Keeps me out
Everyone
of
else
trouble.
is spending time blogging or doing this or doing that. Todd's always like out actually doing something somewhere, building something. Even when we go out to dinner and a bunch of us get together on a Friday night and we're sitting out at the restaurant, we're talking, we're eating, we're BSing, Todd always has like all his stuff out for making chainmail armor, and he'll be sitting there doing rings together and stuff. It's always interesting to seeing what he's up to. You've got an article out in the new 2018 book, The AK.
Yes,
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. We did I'll let you show your. Since you were Dave's the editor, he set this up and got me involved.
But you had a great article on actually seeing what the AK-47 bayonet would be like as a field knife. Yes,
that was rather interesting. It was a bevel ground knife, which usually aren't my favorite, but that one actually worked pretty good.
You don't like those at all?
Nah, they're not my thing. But I'll tell you one thing, that cutting barbed wire really sucks, and it nipped through that pretty good. And it batoned pretty good through. We were cutting off branches when I built the shelter out with it.
You put a pretty decent edge on it.
Yeah. It was a flat edge, so worked it out pretty good, and it held the edge quite well. I don't know what the steel was in it, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it would be better than some other things out there, but yeah, it wouldn't be my choice to go plowing through the woods with.
But what was interesting was all the little different things that the Russians did incorporate into the design.
Yeah.
Where you could insert the muzzle ring into the sheath to use it, the pommel as a hammer.
Yep.
You know, you did have the wire cutting ability. You had the regular blade.
The sawback on the back will cut through nails pretty efficiently.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Nails, small metal,
steel. Yeah. So long as
metal,
it's not
aluminum.
stupid hard. Yep.
So there's a lot of different interesting things about that you can read about in the 2018 issue of Book the AK-47. This is roaring now.
Yeah, it's starting to pull. You can. Oh yeah, it's.
I'm going to step off and grab the camera and give people a little bit closer look.
You want me to? I can start. I can hear the air being pulled into the opening. The fire's more around the opening. When it starts moving in the back, you'll be able to, all the rest of it will start sliding down. But you can see where it's starting to dry the edges around. I think that's where some of the cracking will start, because it was still pretty wet. I should have let it sit probably a week to like next weekend, but we're supposed to have 3 days worth of rain, and even covered up. I wanted it hardened.
You didn't really have any choice on here. You didn't feel like
it's getting to the point where I've done enough work to it. I don't want it shelled out, so this will harden up. I can fix cracks. That's not a big deal. So it'll come out pretty good. And it's starting to get pretty warm already. This will be great in the winter. That would be, even this in the winter, if I was doing this and I had a setup, it'd be kind of cool with a big deer loin, cover it in clay, get this thing all hot, because it'd act like an oven, and drop that in there and leave it sit for the course of a day where it cooked in its own juices inside of a big ball of clay. That would be incredible. I might have to do that.
I think that sounds good.
That would be a pretty good video too. Be sitting out here drinking a nice cup of wine, waiting for your deer loin to cook, enjoying the heat off the ceramic kiln, well, earthenware kiln. You can see it's already starting to warm up a little bit because it's changing colors, or it's drying it out down. That's from days ago, so it's lightening it up a little bit. That whole thing, by the time that burns down, we have Osage in there, and there's a little bit of cedar. I have pine, but the Osage is what will burn the hottest, and that'll bring the temperature up quite high in there. I should be able to get, if I use Osage charcoal in this, I should be able to get that thing hot enough to melt bronze.
Melting bronze. That sounds like a typical Todd Jadaberg thing to do.
Well, that's the next thing I'm gonna try to.
What do you want to make?
I want to cast a couple of knives, but my end goal with the bronze is to make the Celt sword. I think I need to make this stone, or I'll probably do it out of clay, forms, and I think I figured out a trick to where they said that they could cast bronze out to 18 inches. Well, in today's world, they're having difficulties making bronze flow that far out, but I think I figured out a trick that might work. I'm gonna have to play with it and find out.
That sounds like it'll be a fun project.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get involved in on that one too. I need to build a few things. The other thing with this is I can set this up to make crucibles.
Yeah.
And they're not that they're that expensive, but that isn't the idea. I want to be able to try to do as much of this in-house as I can, so I can say I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And once all that comes together, I've got some really good, what would be considered a weapons grade bronze. So I'll cast that down, or I can make it initially from copper and tin. It's just a ratio of one part tin to 9 parts copper, and that'll make a good solid bronze. But I need to make the stuff to pull it out, and because I'm not reaching in. I don't care what kind of leather gloves I've got. That runs about 2,000 degrees.
Yeah. Well, this looks pretty successful so far.
Yeah, the ends to the zucchini that we got sitting over here.
Oh, look at that. We even have food.
Yep. We'll be roasting some of this up here in a bit. Probably wait till the fire goes down a little, otherwise it'll cook a little faster.
You think?
But we'll probably kick the camera back on later while we're grilling, because I'm sure the supervisor will want some of his too.
So we'll kick this off for now, and we'll come back in a little bit after this is burned down some.